This is the NETGEAR Orbi 970, model RBE972S. It is the first mesh system that made my wireless feel like wired in rooms that used to stutter and buffer. I put this in the category of high-end whole home mesh for people who want multi-gig internet to actually feel multi-gig, across more than one floor, without stringing cables everywhere. It suits larger spaces, homes with lots of devices, and anyone who values consistency over tinkering. If you are in a small apartment on a few hundred megabits, this is probably more power than you need. If you spend your evenings tweaking routers and building custom networks, the software may feel too simple. I sit somewhere in between. I want speed and stability with enough control to keep my older smart devices happy, and I want it without babysitting the network every day. The design is clean and tall. Each tower looks like a matte sculpture, not a blinking sci-fi toy, and that actually matters because you will not be hiding these behind a television stand. They are big for a reason. There are a lot of antennas and real hardware inside. The ring light on top pulses during setup, turns blue when the satellite links, and then stays off unless something is wrong. I love that it disappears in daily life. One practical note from living with it: the hardware runs warm. When I tucked the router into a cabinet for a cleaner look, I started seeing short slowdowns during busy hours. Moving it to an open shelf fixed the problem completely. Passive cooling is doing the job, but it needs air around it. Noise has not been an issue. In a silent room at night, if I lean in, I can hear a faint electronic whine, but during normal use it is effectively silent. Port layout actually affects how I use this. The router has a 10 gigabit internet port for fiber or multi-gig cable, a separate 10 gigabit local port for a workstation or a switch, and multiple 2.5 gigabit ports for fast wired gear. The satellite has multi-gig ports too, which means I can wire the backhaul with one cable if I want, and then all of the radios are dedicated to devices. That small detail made a big difference when I was moving video files around for work. Setup through the Orbi app took me under half an hour from unboxing to internet, including a firmware update. I placed the router by my modem and the satellite about 40 feet away through one wall and a stairwell. The app found the satellite immediately, handled the update, and I was online without having to dig through advanced menus. I created a separate network name for my older smart plugs and bulbs, locked to 2.4 gigahertz with wireless fidelity protected access to, and everything paired without complaints. My newer phones and laptops joined the main network with modern security and were up and running in seconds. Day-to-day use has been smooth. The app is simple, and the essentials are easy to find. There are automatic firmware updates and a trial of NETGEAR Armor, which adds network-level security and phishing protection. I do think the app pushes the subscription once the trial ends, and some parental controls sit behind a paid tier. Power users will notice what is not here. I cannot build custom virtual local area networks or pull deep traffic logs the way I can on prosumer gear. For most homes, that will not matter. For network hobbyists, it might. Now the part that convinced me. The speed jump is real. On a wireless Fidelity 7 laptop a few feet from the router, I consistently saw between 2 and 2.5 gigabits per second on my 2 gigabit fiber plan. Local transfers inside the house sometimes went higher. One floor up I was still comfortably above 1 gigabit. In the backyard I lived between 700 and 900 megabits, which is more than enough for streaming, working, and big downloads. The satellite never felt like a watered-down half-speed connection. That is because this system uses an enhanced dedicated backhaul. In simple terms, it bonds a fast 6 GHz link with a strong 5 GHz link using a wireless Fidelity 7 feature called multi-link operation. Think of it as giving the router and satellite 2 lanes to talk to each other, one wide and one sturdy, so your phones and laptops are not fighting that backhaul for airtime. When I pushed the satellite a little farther than the app recommended, speeds dipped, but performance did not collapse. That dual-link design kept things steady. Wired backhaul is even better if you can do it. I tested a week with a single Category 6A cable running between rooms, and uploads especially became rock solid. If you can pull a cable, do it. If not, the wireless backhaul here is legitimately strong. Over a month of living with it, stability has been solid once I gave the router airflow and kept firmware current. I ran into two brief moments where a couple of devices hung while trying to get an address from the router. That is a dynamic host configuration protocol hiccup. Toggling wireless on the device or rebooting the satellite cleared it both times. I would like to see roaming and handoffs get a little more polish in future updates, but those blips did not change my overall experience. Real-world use is where this system earns its keep. I work from home and had a day with a live video call on one computer, 2 televisions streaming movies in 4000 resolution, a console pulling a big download, cloud backups humming along, and a laptop syncing a project folder. The living room television did not buffer. The call did not lag. The download chugged away and I forgot about it. I also tested family weekends with a lot of phones and tablets hopping on and off. Concurrency felt effortless. I did not have to micromanage anything. One specific use case that surprised me is creative work. I keep a desktop with a 10 gigabit network card plugged into the router's 10 gigabit port. Large photo and video files move very quickly to and from a local storage box. On my laptop, which only connects over wireless, I still see speeds that make editing off a network share viable for many tasks. That is not something I could say with older systems. The net result is that Ethernet now feels optional in rooms where I used to rely on it. There are smart ideas here that actually help in daily life. The system is 4-band, with separate lanes that keep the backhaul from stepping on your devices. The wireless fidelity 7 features go beyond raw speed. Wider channels up to 320 MHz and denser quadrature amplitude modulation pack more data into the same air. Multi-link operation lets devices use 5 GHz and 6 GHz together, so they can borrow the strengths of both. There is also a feature that lets the system skip noisy parts of a channel instead of shrinking the whole thing, which helps if your neighbors have busy networks. Placement sensitivity is real with wider channels. Moving the satellite by 10 feet or changing the angle around a stairwell gave me a noticeable bump in throughput. The coverage claim for the 2-piece kit is around 6,600 square feet. In my wood frame home, that feels about right. In concrete or brick, expect less and plan the satellite location carefully. The ring light can be turned off in the app, which keeps bedrooms calm at night. I do have caveats. Keep the units in the open. Do not suffocate them in cabinets. Make the Internet of Things network for older devices right away so you are not troubleshooting during setup. Expect the app to nudge you about security and parental controls once the trial ends. If you need custom routing, virtual local area networks, or deep logging, this is not a prosumer platform and it will feel limited. None of that changes the fact that for a larger home on multi-gig service, the day-to-day experience has been excellent. So here is where I landed. The NETGEAR Orbi 970 RBE972S is for people who want fast, consistent, low-lag coverage across a big footprint without fuss. It excels when you have multi-gig internet, lots of devices, and a layout that would usually create dead zones. It is not tiny, it runs warm, and the software leans consumer rather than nerdy, but set it up right, give it fresh air, and it delivers. If you can run a cable for wired backhaul, do it and enjoy the extra consistency. If you cannot, the wireless backhaul is powerful enough to make Ethernet feel optional in most rooms. If this video helped, subscribe for more real-world reviews and leave a comment with your questions or your own results. Thank you for watching.